Good morning, all, depending when you're watching this. Good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice of Radio. So today, we need to have a little bit of a look. It's time, ladies and gentlemen. It's time to have a look at, well, it's Paldea Evolved, right? And it's looking at the prices coming down absolutely beautifully. Because, of course, that is inevitably happening. Although, we need to start off having a look at the special illustration rare of Iono, because it's getting stupid, alright? Let's have a look, let's see what I mean. So, when I showed you the special illustration rare of Iono the other day, I showed you that it was, in my opinion, and based on everything we've seen from other sets in the past, just way too expensive of a card. Like, the solds I showed you here were all around the $200 mark. 205 sold, 195 best offer accepted, 250 best offer accepted. About a $200 card, and I said that $200 was way too much given what we've seen from other cards of a similar kind of ilk. Well, here's the thing. If we go and have a look at the graph on TCG Player, this doesn't make a huge amount of sense. Now, initially it does. Initially, what happened here is that, as we would expect, the price crashed from about $180 down to $100, and of course, that crash is the second the set released. That is to be expected. That is what happens when we have a card like this. The pre-sale price is way too high, the set releases, the price crashes, everybody goes on with their lives. And that happened, except people didn't go on with their lives. People started pushing it up again. And now we're in this silly situation where it's gone back up, not quite to what it was before, but it's back up to about 160. And to be fair, the recent solds are more in the 140 range, so it is on the way back down. And I still think this will go settle under $100 pretty easily. But whereas it initially crashed to $100, we've seen it go back up to about 160, but like I say, look at the recent solds. It's going back down to about 140. And if we have a look at the recent solds over on eBay, we've got a 145, a 132, a 149. So again, a similar kind of thing going on here, whereby this should be under $100 by now. Instead, it's the 140 to 150 range, and that's not really following what we would expect. Now, if anyone's looking for an explanation here, there is an explanation, and the explanation essentially is people are keeping it afloat. There are a few people who have gone, Iono's different, I will overpay. And because a few people have gone, it's different, I'll overpay, that means that a bunch of other people are getting the fear of missing out, and now they're overpaying. It happens. I still expect this to come back down, but just a word here that the Iono Special Illustration Rare, yeah, it is taking a lot longer to crash down than we would generally expect. But this card is an anomaly. Like, if we go and have a look at the full art Iono, for instance, it's gone from $80 down to, well, the market price is $47.30, but if we look at the recent solds, 43, 46, 47, so again, that is starting to creep down as well. This one has come down very nicely. It's a sub $50 card, and again, I expect this to carry on as we go, because they're the English cards. The pull rates are nowhere near as low as the Japanese versions of the cards, and they just don't hold their value in the same way. We've seen this for a long time, and I feel very confident we're going to keep seeing this for a long time. Like I say, the special illustration rare of Iono, it's basically being propped up by people willing to pay above the odds. Simple as that. It is not as hard to pull as it was in Japanese. You're not going to be getting like 600 quid for selling this card. It's not happening. But for the time being, yeah, it's holding a decent amount of value. The full art of Iono is going a lot more true to form. And you'll notice here, it is going down pretty nicely. And it's about a $50 card for now. But I feel pretty gosh darn confident that within a few weeks, this is going to be, a $30, $40 card. Maybe even less, honestly. Which is lovely. It's a cool card. And I'm very delighted I pulled the Japanese version in one of my openings. And that was lovely. But make no mistake about it, the English version of this card is just not going to... It's not going to keep the value. Because the English versions never do. Except for the special illustration rare. But don't worry, that one won't last. If we have a look at the other cards, there is actually another one that's gone a bit dumb. And makes no sense. And that is Magikarp. Why? It's a $60 card. It started life as a $25 card. It's now up to a $60 card. We're going to look at this one in more detail later on. This makes no sense. And now, when I say this makes no sense, I'm not just saying I don't understand it. I'm saying it genuinely makes no sense. Because when we look at these cards, we can look at Japan. And it really is as simple as that. Because over in Japan, they have the same cards. So if there is a card which is attracting a huge amount of value over here, unless there is some weird thing going on, it should be attracting the same kind of value over in Japan. Simple as that. Cards like Iono are very expensive over in Japan. That makes sense. But if a card is attracting a huge amount of value over here, but is not doing the same in Japan, then that means that it makes no sense and the market is essentially wrong, as weird as that sounds. People are overpaying for a card that they shouldn't be overpaying for because it doesn't really make any sense. And that's what's happening here with Magikarp. Over in Japan, this is like a $20 card. And to be fair, $20 for this card is still way too much. Way too much. But it is a $20 card over in Japan. It's like 2,800 yen, which is like $20. And even that, as far as I'm concerned, is way too expensive. Because it's just a regular artwork rare. And sure, the Shinji Kanda artwork is amazing, no argument there. But it's still just a regular artwork rare. But over in the West, we're paying $60 for this card? And it's creeping up? The recent sales show that it is creeping up. No! This makes no sense. If this was a $60-ish card in Japan, that would be fine. This is, in terms of the artwork rares, it is one of the best since they started doing them. It is one of the most sought after. It is one of the most expensive. No argument there. That all makes sense. But this is falling in line with things like the Machamp alternate art and the Aerodactyl alternate art, which is to say, cards that are inexplicably expensive over here that weren't over in Japan. Because again, generally speaking, the expensive cards in Japan become the expensive cards over here, and the cheaper cards in Japan are the cheaper cards over here. This all makes perfect sense. This Magikarp is too expensive. The price of this Magikarp makes no sense. It should be one of the most expensive artwork rares, absolutely. But it should not be a $60 card. This is ludicrous, ladies and gentlemen. Absolutely ludicrous. It makes no sense whatsoever. The explanation, and it's not a great explanation, is that just like Machamp and Aerodactyl before it, the community or a bunch of people in the community have gone, hey, that's pretty cool, let's big that up. And then they start overpaying and the price skyrockets. It makes no sense. The good news is the rest of these cards are generally coming down quite nicely. So we can have a look at the special illustration rare of Chen Pao, which of course we expect to be a very good playable card. And since its release, it's fallen from an $85 card to a $40 card, exactly as we might expect, because this is what happens when sets come out. This makes perfect sense. We accept this. This is lovely. The special illustration rare of Dendra, similar thing going on here. On release, people were trying to peg it as a $60 card. That didn't work. All of a sudden, Dendra's sitting here at a $25 card. Lost more than 50% of its value since the set came out. And the set's been out like a week. This is exactly what we would generally expect to find. Because this is what happens. When the pre-releases happen, there aren't many of the cards out there. Fear of missing out kicks in. Everybody overpays. And then the set actually releases, and things are nice and easy, and jobs are good. We could look at things like the special illustration rare of Boss's Orders, which has gone from a $40 card to a $20 card, which again makes perfect sense. It's exactly what we'd expect to see here. It's a card that everybody gets super excited about and overpays when pre-releases happen, and then all of a sudden the set releases, supply increases massively, and the price just starts absolutely plummeting. We could take a look at Grusha here, which started life as a $65 card. It's now a $20 card. And we could keep going here, but you kind of get the point. These special illustration rares are just absolutely plummeting in the way that we generally expect them to. Set comes out, price crashes, jobs are good 'un. The interesting thing with this particular set is that it's giving us a couple of exceptions. I'm going to give you one more. Meowscarada, it's gone from a $40 card to a $20 card, and if you look at the recent solds, does appear to still be falling. Fair enough. The weird thing here is the exceptions. Iono should not be such an expensive card, but for some reason, well, it's not for some reason, it's because everybody loves Iono and it's an amazingly playable card. It's understandable. Like, if it was going to happen for any card, this is the card it should happen for. It just shouldn't be happening for any card not in English. English cards do not hold their value like Japanese cards do. We've seen that for years and years and years. I expect to see that moving forward as we go through. It's just taking way too long to do so. But the Magikarp is another weird exception. Magikarp should not be doing this. It makes no sense. It didn't happen over in Japan, and yet it's happening over here, ladies and gentlemen, and I think we need to talk about this a bit more soon. The good news for me, I've said since the beginning, my chase card here is the special illustration rare of Squawkabilly by Amelicat, because it's absolutely stunning. I adore this card. I want the artwork. I love the playability. Started life as a $36 card. It's now a $15 card, which means I should be able to pick this up pretty gosh darned easily without trying terribly hard. And that makes me very, very happy indeed. In fact, if anyone wants to trade it for a special illustration rare Quaquavel, which I did pull, hit me up on Twitter at @thewassy, would ya? Let's get an old school trade going on. Not that I hate Quaquavel or anything, I just really love that Squawkabilly. So yeah, if you want to trade, hit me up on Twitter at @thewassy. For now, ladies and gentlemen, I want to know what you think about this. Partly about the fact that the prices are crashing like we would expect, and partly about the fact that actually that's not strictly true, because there are a couple of cards here which are proving to be very big exceptions, and that's weird to me. Iono less so. Magikarp, it's just a bit weird. Right, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Now it's over to you guys. Go and answer in the comment section, but be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at @thewassy. That's where we talk about Pokemon and card games and Pokemon card games, all kinds of fun things. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts, join a Discord, all kinds of fun things. And of course, get shout-outs on the channel, like the lovely Jelena Renji, who's been one of our supporters for a long time now and is a very lovely person. So shout out to them for the support and the loveliness. But by far the most important thing is always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.